Okay, we continue the Horus Heresy journey in today's video by tackling the incredible new Saturnine Dreadnought. As you can probably tell, I'm quite a large fan of Dreadnoughts. I think I've got about 12 Redemptor pattern Dreadnoughts fully painted up for my various legions now, chapters now, and I just can't stop. So any excuse to do another Dreadnought, I will jump straight on it. And like I said, they've given us the biggest Dreadnought we've ever seen in the Saturnine pattern, and that's what we're going to tackle today in my Imperial Fist Legion, and I'm very excited to share it with you. We're going to be using some contrast, we're going to be trying out that marine juice again, we're going to be playing around back and forth until we get a result that I'm happy with, and hopefully you guys are happy to emulate as well. Before I get into it, I'm just going to get all that boring stuff out of the way that you guys hate kind of skipping forward through in the video, just so we can just concentrate fully on painting. That is, of course, if you're enjoying the video, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to help the channel out even further, there's things like Patreon, channel membership, that's all linked below as well. You get a bunch of benefits for that, extra videos every single week, private Discord server, take part in all the different events we have going on over there, super important. And if you're planning on doing any of your hobby purchases and you're in the UK, you're in the rest of Europe, you're in Ireland, there's links down below for the various shops that will help you do that and help you save money. Element Games, My Hobby Place, and Underworld Gaming here in Dublin. So those are all the things I need to say out of the way. Now we can dive straight in and get this model painted up. Okay, so first things first for me is to cut it off the base I just put it on the other day. Because I've since decided, after building my entire box set, that I was going to give them nice fancy bases. And yeah, and I also had to carefully cut off the models from the bases and not just replace the bases, because I've already put my War Mag magnets on the other side. So I don't want to waste the base and waste the magnets, so I carefully hacksawed them off, sanded down the bases, got it nice and clean, make sure to repair any damage I've done to the feet of said model, and then got the nice fancy base in place. This is a stupid thing, a bit of forethought, and I would have realized that I wanted to put nice bases on these models, make them stand out a little bit more. I mean, look at this base. I mean, when I have the ability to 3D print pieces like this, just glue it into place, put the model on top, and it makes a huge difference to the final aesthetic of the model. I feel like I should be doing it with most projects, which is kind of my plan moving forward. So anyway, getting that annoying little bit out of the way and getting this hobby piece done, I get to glue it all back together again, get it all sprayed up. And for the spraying purpose of this model, it was sprayed black, and then it was sprayed with a coat of Wraithbone. Usually when I do Dreadnoughts, I spray it black and then I spray it silver, and then I just kind of work up the panels. I like the kind of internal mechanism of a Dreadnought to be already silver, and that makes it a lot easier for that part. But, you know, I wanted to keep the tones matching from the infantry to the bigger models. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do a bone, and I'm going to suffer through that under part. And you will see that I suffer through that under part in a moment. So after the Wraithbone is sprayed, the first step is to actually get a coat of Wraithbone paint with a paintbrush and paint in those panels you will plan to put the contrast yellow on top of. You do want a solid, smooth coat. The spray gives you a nice base coat, but I wouldn't say it's a nice solid coat. If you spray enough to get a nice solid coat, it's probably too thick and you've kind of gummed up some of the details and stuff. So I like to go a little bit lighter and then just very carefully go in with a coat of paint. With this done, we are now moving on to our Imperial Fist yellow contrast, and we're going to apply that all over the armor panels. Lots of people believe you cannot contrast large, flat panels. Well, that's just not true. If you learn to control your contrast, i.e. stop it from pooling, make sure you have enough on your brush to be able to push around those large flat panel areas, you can get pretty perfect results with the contrast. The only problem is it's very difficult to repair any mistakes you make. If you're suddenly doing the trim and you slip and hit it with a contrast coat, it's not going to go over again very easily. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare, so you have to be careful. For instance, this giant Saturnine shoulder pad. Look at this single coat of Imperial Fist yellow that I'm going to put on this. You will see how perfectly smooth it turns out. And how nice it does look. Now, I want everything to be a little bit more worn, a little bit more kind of damaged and dinked and stuff like that. Like, I plan on having a late siege heresy army, so I want everything to be a little bit kind of damaged. A million bolt rounds have already kind of hit the armor of this thing. It's chipped and battered, but anyway. But as you can see, the contrast, you can see I'm taking my time making sure nothing pulls and recesses or anything like that. And what I'm left with is a perfect smooth coat of yellow on that piece. So I'll follow that through across the entire Dreadnought, all the armor panels that need to be yellow. And this is the result that we do have. Now I'm going to jump onto that really horrible stage, which I very much did not enjoy, but it's not too difficult. All it is getting a coat of Black Templar pretty much painting the rest of the model in that. So you have to get in underneath all of the panels and get it done. Obviously, you're going to leave the trim alone. That's going to go, I decided to go gold. Could have gone black, but I decided to leave that gold. Things like the faceplate, I decided to give this guy a red helmet, which is very traditional of some high-ranking officers and stuff for Horus Heresy or Space Marine armies in general, especially things like Imperial Fists and Ultramarines. So I decided to do that for this guy. If you're rocking around in a Dreadnought that's as rare as this, my guess is you were probably a pretty high-ranking officer before you fell. I have super glued the weapon arms to these little paint handles here. It's at the joint, so when I do pop them off, I just scrape it with a little bit of a blade and then just glue them into place. You don't see anything like that, any of the connection points. So it's a very easy way to get the models painted. Okay, with the black all done and fully dry, it's time to start shifting that color to more of a metallic. I didn't want to go just this block of silver. I think that won't look as good as this. So what I'm going to do now is dry brush it with lead belcher. You might be screaming, asking, what the hell are you doing? You're going to hit the yellow. You'd be surprised at how easy it is to actually control a dry brush and not hit the yellow too much. And guess what? If it does hit the yellow too much, it just acts like a little bit of scratching or a little bit of weathering. It's not that big of a deal. We're going to be putting marine juice all over this model anyway, darkening a bunch of it down. And then we're going to be edge highlighting and stuff like that later on. So you don't have to worry too much. But it does look very good. You put a coat of black and then a dry brush of silver. It looks infinitely better than if you just put a flat coat of lead belcher. So it's a very quick and easy way of doing it as opposed to sitting there with a tiny brush and lead belcher and base coating everything. Same thing with the weapons. The majority of those are done in silver. So we blocked them in with a black color and then dry brushed them with a lead belcher. Give us a really nice base coat. You may notice that on this particular gun, I leave the ducting work like white. I know that this is not like an energy weapon like the other weapons, like a plasma weapon. So I know those coils are not supposed to glow. I know they're not actually energy coils. They're just pipes. But I'm going to paint them as energy coils at the end. So I kind of have that color on both sides with the big plasma cannon, the bombard, and then that gun. So I know it's not right, but it looks really cool. So I'm going to stick with it. Retributor Armor Gold was then used for all of the trim panels on this. Retributor Armor Gold is not the best to paint over pure white. A nice red base coat or even the black might have been a better choice. So perhaps when you do the black undercoat part, maybe you want to do these trim parts and then paint them back over in gold. That might have given you a slightly kind of better tone. They were very pallid over the white. Like I said, I work it up with shades and stuff later on and fix it, but you know, that's just up to you what you want to do. From here, we're going to go for Blood Angel's red and paint in his face plate with this. I'm not going to show you the layering process of the face later on. I've done it a million times before, but just in case you are wondering, after the shade is dried on this thing, Mephiston red, Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider red, those are the three colors that I used to highlight the helmet. It's very quick and easy, but I have recorded a little bit too much footage for this particular video and some stuff had to unfortunately make it onto the editing room floor. Otherwise this video would have been an hour long. So hopefully you guys are okay with that. Okay, all of the base coats are now on this miniature and it is time for the wash. And for the wash, we are going to be using the marine juice. I talked about this in my previous video. This is not my recipe. Go back to that video and learn all about where I stole it from and all the recognition and stuff that goes along with it is in that video. So I'm going to apply this very carefully across the entire miniature. It is called marine juice. It is a mix of Reikland Flesh Shade, Nuln Oil or Army Painter Dark Tone, and Lamian Medium, and it gives you this really nice color that you can shade over a Space Marine or any power armored miniature, and it just sells into all the recesses really nicely. It doesn't darken the model down too much. Obviously I don't like the color yellow that's on this right now. I think it's far too bright for Imperial Fists. It looks like a lemon, so I think adding the tone on this now is really good for darkening it down. We also used Gryph-hound Orange to block in the base of this. Now, I've often talked about this as well, the idea that my bases are more Martian theme, although this is what I believe Terra probably looks like in late siege warfare. The amount of munitions, the amount of destroyed infrastructure, the amount of like oxidized iron and all the rust in the air and all the devastation. I believe most of the soil is probably something closer to orange than any rich brown color. So I'm going to go with that. So it looks kind of bizarre that I'm just putting orange on the base now, but I'll clean it up now and it'll make sense. So the next thing I do after that contrast is very much dry is I do a Ryza Rust dry brush across the entire thing. You can go a little bit heavier with this, making sure you get all the recesses and all those kind of sections. It's very simple, it's a very quick step, but it works a treat. It makes it look really good. And then after that, we are going to jump over to a Ushabti bone color. And this is going to add a really nice kind of pallid tone to it. Kind of bring it more of a natural look. And obviously I'm going a lot lighter with this dry brush than I did with the Ryza Rust previously. After this, we are going to rim the base of the model black, with just to tidy up before we move on. Whilst I had the black on the palette, I did actually decide that the model is a little bit too yellow for my liking. It's just a whole lot. When I went and did a lot of research on Heresy era Imperial Fist Dreadnoughts, I learned that most of their shoulder panels are in fact done in black, which I thought was a much nicer kind of breakup of color. So I decided to block in the shoulder pads with black at this point in the video and just work from there. So you guys can decide whether you want to leave it yellow or whether you want to work it up with black or do something different. That's totally up to you at this point. And as you can see, I think the model sat on that base now looks really good. We will be adding some weathering powder to it later on to kind of change up some tones. But as it stands, I'm really happy with how the model is starting to look. And I'm very excited for getting it finished off and added into my Heresy Imperial Fist army. So I toyed around a lot with 2nd edition. I did some painting videos. I did a lot of painting videos for 2nd edition, but didn't actually play any games. I played a very small amount of 1st edition, but I am committed to actually building a legion and playing some games for 3rd edition. My entire hobby group is dedicated to it now. We are all working on our legions. We're kind of pairing up as it goes. There's 2 Imperial Fist players, 2 Blood Angel players, and 2 Iron Warriors players so far. So obviously we need 2 more players to play another Heresy Legion, and then we can play some pretty cool hobby weekends and get some rather large games in, which I think will be stellar. So I'm very excited for that. So these models are not just for painting videos. These are for my active collection, my active army that I'm working on, which of course makes you want to put a little bit more love and attention into it and makes you enjoy it even more. So I'm very pleased to be working on these models right now. Okay, now is one of the steps which I thought I would despise, but I actually am really enjoying doing it. And that's adding a slight edge highlight to the model. I know that sounds like a devastating word to use, that edge highlighting. It's horrible, but it's actually not that bad. So all it is Wraithbone, which jumps back to the previous, like the base coat of the model. And we're just going to be adding it to some of the more predominant sharp edges across the piece. Obviously the huge big helmet piece that goes over the head. I'm going to work on some of the sharp bits of the leg, all the little bolts and rivets and stuff across the model. You're just going to hit with a tiny bit of Wraithbone, and that's all. It does not take a long time, and it's not a 100% necessary step, but I think it does add something. Liberator gold was then used to highlight all of the gold parts on the model. So obviously the big beautiful Aquila symbol across his chest, the trim going around those massive shoulder pads. There's trim on leg, there's trim going around his ankles. Depending on which way you build it, of course, there's different torsos, there's different shin guards that don't have any of these details. If you want to go a different way, but that's just up to you. I'm an Imperial Fist player. We're not versed to some ornamentation, being the Emperor's favorite legion, of course. Therefore, I feel like as much trim as possible is what I decided when constructing it. Okay, it's time to, I obviously added in the transfers there. I've done a million videos on transfers, so I'm obviously not going to show that in today's video. But the transfers have now been applied, and it's now time for me to work up the energy weapons that I talked about. So for this, I just go for a Blood Angel's red contrast across all of the energy coils. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I know the other gun is not energy coils and it does not make sense, but you gotta admit that it's gonna look way cooler done as energy coils than it is the kind of boring pipes that it would be. This thing would just be kind of silver, gold, and some black piping. Bit boring. Plus it is an energy weapon, so some energy I think makes sense. So once again, with those piping, I'm going to do the same thing as the plasma. So Blood Angel's red contrast applied to those very carefully. From here, we are just going to dry brush those coils with white. You will notice that I hit the center of each coil with kind of a stronger brush stroke. And then as it feathers out to the edges, you can go a little bit lighter. This will just give a better kind of result when you put the next color on. I make the coils look really nice. Red, light dry brush of white. Once again, we're going to do the same thing across the other gun as well. Hopefully make them blend together. And when that's done, we are of course going to go over to one of my favorite paints for energy coils, and that is the Intensity Ink range from Green Stuff World. And I've gone for the Phoenix Orange color. It just looks so cool when you add these three colors together for energy coils. I think I stole it from a Squidmar video when they were doing the energy coils on their big Titan diorama. I think this is literally the recipe they've used, and I've been using it ever since, and I absolutely love it. So kudos to those guys for that. As you can see, the orange immediately goes on, makes it look like glowing heat. It just looks epic. The orange sits really nicely with the dark metallic and obviously all the yellow trim. And just, it looks great. So I'm really happy with that. Now we're going to add a little bit more weathering. So I've just got a little bit of sponge here, and I just stipple a little bit of silver onto the black areas for some chipping. And then I do the same thing on the yellow areas, but I once again go back to the Wraithbone, and I use a different piece of sponge. You don't need metallic mixed into it. So Wraithbone, and I just stipple some of the orange bits with that, especially over the transfers. It helps the transfers blend in a little bit better. These are the two guns. And now it is time to get the kind of model's final assembly done. So you can see I've already added those carapace guns in. And now I've added some super glue, and I'm going to try and get some posing on this guy. So I'm going to have this left arm kind of sweeping back a little bit, and then he's obviously firing off the plasma bombard. I think it's a plasma bombard. Looks like one, but maybe it's a different gun. Who knows with all this crazy Saturnine technology. When all of those bits and pieces are in place, we have a kind of a dreadnought that looks like this. Once again, this is the point where I think if you look the plasma coils on both guns together on either side, I think it looks really good and it works a treat. So we've got a little bit of weathering powder now. I have some dark red, some orange, and some black weathering powder. I have this inside of a card sleeve thing here with brushes and all my... It's the most devastating thing for staining things ever. So I just take that whole tray down. I put gloves on. I pick up the brush. I stipple all of the weathering powder where it needs to go. And then I obviously throw the gloves in the bin and get the model sprayed with a coat of varnish, which will finish off the Dreadnought. We will have him ready for war and ready to kind of go. So I've decided the first thing that I'm going to do for my Imperial Fist project is actually the entire Saturnine box set. I've set a goal for myself to finish this entire set in Imperial Fist colors before I do anything else. So I have everything stored away in this War Mag case. And as I'm going through, I'm obviously attaching the magnets, putting them in their place, and obviously having it stored away. So it's nice to actually see the progress as you go. Two of the Marines are done, one of the Terminators done, and now the Dreadnought is done. So I'm really enjoying that. So this is the final result of my painting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. You learned a couple of quick and easy ways of getting your Dreadnought painted, and you're looking forward to more Horus Heresy content in the very near future. Please do comment below what videos you want to see, and I will work on them as soon as I can.